Hey everyone, welcome back to a happy Thursday. So we got stuff to talk about. Well, perhaps other channels don't have anything to talk about, but we got data galore, so we're going to have something to talk about today. Tomorrow we'll have always something to talk about. Today we're going to talk about the dilution that we've seen here over the last year. So basically going from Q4 of last year to Q4 of this year of the miners. And what do we get for it, right? Do we get growth? Do we get, let's see here. I'm getting an error that the stream couldn't be created. What? Okay, hopefully everything's working out. I'm getting an error on my screen here, but hopefully everything works out. So we're going to look at what we got for it as far as how much hash rate growth did we get, also revenue growth. We'll take a look at that as well per share that was diluted there. So hopefully that works out. And then we'll take a look at one good news story on the PPI data that came out today as well. And then we'll look at Bitcoin miners as well and call it a day here, okay? But as always, you guys know the drill, not financial advice for entertainment only. Do your own research, full disclosure below that. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. So let's take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin here right now. Bitcoin definitely was down on the day today. Wasn't down too bad, but it was still down a little bit here. It was down 3% roughly. It was down almost like 5%, I think, at one point, and it kind of pulled back up a little bit, which was good. And then it's up a little bit here today. So we are, like I talked about yesterday, we are battling with this 200 simple day moving average on Bitcoin. You can see that here, which is this green line, then turns red, green, and red again, depending where we are above it or below it. So that's still battling with that. That's acting as our resistance right now. Going forward here, we'll see if we can muster the strength to get above it. Some of you guys are still calling for Bitcoin to go down to like 69,000, maybe even 65,000 perhaps. That's always a possibility there, right? I'm not going to say that's not going to happen or anything like that. But that's something always to be mindful of. I think if we stay in that range still, I think we're going to be okay. If we fall below that, we get down to like 60 and 55,000, then we're looking at bear market territory for Bitcoin at that point. At least that's my opinion right now. That could change as things progress here, but we'll see. So Bitcoin was down today. It's up a little bit here now on the day. MicroStrategy was up today. I think it was the only one that was actually up today. MicroStrategy was up 0.27, right? We had the S&P being down, we had the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ being down as well. So everything else was down pretty much today as well. Bitfarms was down 5.2% on the day. I mean, look at this. This thing is like holding up pretty good here. I mean, there's some strong support there, like 110, 109 on Bitfarms right now. BitDeer down 8.6% here. This also looks like a pretty good support here for it right now. Cypher down 5.31%. Got a little bit of support here. We'll see, not a lot of days, but a little bit of support there. Cleanspark was down 5% as well. Also, you can see we have some support right around this range as well. CORZ down 3.24. That's CORZ has had a nice kind of couple of days going up here, which is kind of nice to see. But it had a little pullback, so possibly some profit taking happening on that one. Hive was down 5.1%. Again, kind of holding support there. You got down to this level, 3 days basically, and it's holding up right now. We'll see if this holds as support for it. HUT was down 3.6% as well. IREN was down 4.1%. Mara was down 7.25%. Again, going down to this level here. The only concern is on this one, probably others as well. We could probably look at it. The RSI at that point, going back to February 25th, RSI was at 23. We're at the same level price-wise, and the RSI is actually above 30 right now. So that could potentially, if you're a chartist, mean that we could possibly go down even more. If we do go down more on Mara, we're going to probably go down on the other ones as well. Riot was down 6.8. You can see the same thing kind of on the RSI as well, right? Before price was higher, now it's a little bit higher RSI, but price is actually lower on it. So there's still possibility for us to go down. And then Wolf was down 7.43%. It's also kind of holding this kind of support here right around this range right now. But again, the RSI, if you look at it prior, just a couple of days back, last week, price was higher, RSI was lower. Now price is lower and RSI is higher actually. Small miners were all down. The ETFs were all down today as well. Bitcoin dominance increased a little bit more here to 61.68. Was down it's down on Thursday. We're into Friday now as it is. And then what else was up here? Doge was up a little bit, or it is at least right now up today, but it's down the prior day. US M2 supply continues to go up here. So that could bode well for us going forward. We shall see, okay? Excuse me. Not the CPI, the PPI data came out today as well. So good news here for the most part. This is from Bach. Breaking macro data release, PPI actual 3.2, forecast was 3.3, previous was 3.5, so that's good. Core PPI year over year actual 3.4, forecast was 3.5. and the previous was 3.6, so that's looking pretty good here. PPI month over month actual is 0, forecast was 0.3, and the previous was 0.4, and then the US core PPI month actual was a negative 0.1, forecast was 0.3, and US initial jobless claims actual was 220,000, forecast 225, previous 221. So things are looking pretty good, and they're not too bad, at least not right now. So we'll have Papa Powell obviously next week with the FOMC meeting. We'll see what he says on all this stuff that's happening here in the markets and everything else, with tariffs, all that stuff that's happening across the globe here, with U.S. Being a little bit of a bully, I guess, possibly to its allies. But Bitcoin here is down so far 3.66% on the month of March. Last time we had a down February and a down March was back in 2020. And prior to that, we had 2014 as well. 2014, we had 3 consecutive months in the red here, February, March, and April. Other than that, historically, we've had much better months here, at least, especially in February here, right? March historically has been a bad month for us. We've had only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of last, and then we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, now we're having 7, so it's kind of mixed, half and half on it. So it's anybody's guess as far as where we're going to end up here by the end of the month, whether we're going to be in the green or in the red. But right now, it looks like we might be in the red here. We're already at March 13th, so we're getting close to being halfway done with the month. We'll see where we end up otherwise on it. All right, next, let's get into the dilution on the miners here. I like looking at that when they provide the quarterly results. I'm still missing data for Bitfarms on that. They're the only ones that left that haven't reported yet, so we're waiting on them. So I'm using actually Bitfarms through Q3 of 2024 data, so it's not as exact as it is for all the other miners there. Okay, and here's what we got. So we're looking at Q4 number of shares at the end of Q4 2023, the number of shares, latest number of shares, which are obviously for Q4 as well. What was the dilution there? How many shares were increased at that time? Percentage dilution here as well. And then we're also looking at the Q4 2023 hash rate, where they ended up the year in 2023, and the current hash rate at the end of Q4, so end of December here. What is that difference there? We're looking at dilution per petahash, basically. How much do they dilute for growth, basically. And then we're also looking at revenue for 2023 and revenue for 2024, the difference on that, and what was the per diluted share revenue increase, right? So that also that's a new one there that I plopped in here. I was thinking about it today. I was looking at these numbers here. I'm like, we don't have anything that goes with revenue here. So I'm like, okay, let's see if we can take a look to see if there's anything beneficial to looking at the revenue growth here. Yes, Bitcoin price has gone up, but again, if you're not growing, you're mining less, things like that, that can offset things as well. Okay, so here's what we got. Dilution-wise here, we can look at it down here. I put it in these nice little tables to make it a little bit easier here. So shares diluted here, we can see that the most shares diluted, I probably should do this descending here. We got Core diluting the most, 242 million shares, but that's a lot of it was due to their convertible notes, right, as well. That was a result of that. So they did dilute a lot, but they also came out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They did a reverse split there. That's all part of that. And they've been growing, right? They also are growing tremendously with HPCI business, so I'm not too worried about that. IREN came in number 2 here with 114 million shares, with Bitfarms not too far behind as well, off by only about 400,000 shares roughly, at 114 million shares. Then we got Riot at 96 million shares, Cleanspark 82 million shares, Marathon 78, Cypher 65 million shares, BitDeer 53 million shares, Hive 49, and Hut 8 only 13 million shares. Okay, so Hut 8 has diluted the least here, it looks like, but they also did a reverse split when they merged with USBTC back in, November of 2023, I think it was, right? So they had a reverse split there. And they've been selling a lot of their Bitcoin here in the past as well to fund their operations, and they also got convertible notes, I believe, and some investment from Code 2 as well to help them out. All right, percentage diluted here. So Core diluted the most, IREN second most, 110%, BitDeer 47%, Hive 46%, Cleanspark 41%, Riot 38%, Bitfarms 34%, Marathon 29% only, Cypher 21%, Hut 8 14%, right? So that varies. If you have a high number of shares already and you dilute, if you have, let's just say you have, let's just use, this is 400 million shares, right? And by the end of the year, you have 500 million shares. That's basically a 25% dilution in shares, roughly, right? But here's what we got for it. So hash rate growth, Cleanspark grew the most with 29 exahash being installed in the last year of 2024, followed by Marathon, pretty close to them as well, 28.5 exahash. IREN also really close to that, 25.3 exahash, then followed by Riot with 19 exahash. Bitfarms, 6 exahash, Cypher 5.6, Core 2.1, Hive 1.9, BitDeer 1.8 almost, and then Hut 8 actually went down in hash rate. They were down 1.6 exahash from where they started to where they ended the year on it. And that's because they've been running on older machines here. Also, all of this is just for Bitcoin mining side of things as far as revenues are concerned. This does not include any revenues for hosting, for managed services, for HPC AI, all that other stuff. Strictly Bitcoin mining side of things. Okay, shares per petahash dilution here. So Core diluted the most here, 110 shares per petahash being installed. Basically, BitDeer came in second here, diluting the most, 29,768 shares. Hive in third spot, 24,915. Bitfarms, 17,967. Cypher, 11,436. Riot, 5,060. IREN, 4,540. And then Cleanspark, 2,851. And Marathon came in at number one here for the least, or the best dilution for growth, basically. 2,737 shares being diluted per petahash being installed. So that's actually really good here. So the best performers would be Marathon, Cleanspark, IREN, Riot, and possibly Cypher towards that end as well, right? Hut 8, like I said, was negative because they actually went down in hash rate. All right, when we look at the per diluted share revenue increase, basically, what did we get for it? So here's the difference on it, right? From the year prior, I don't have Hut 8's numbers because they changed the way that they are combining the different business segments at the end of Q4, which prior to that, they were actually had it separated out for Bitcoin mining, hosting, all that stuff. Now they're kind of combining things. It makes it really tough to figure out actually what is what. So that one's not included in here. So that one's zero. Core was $18 million increase from revenues in 2023, then in revenues in 2024. Then you got BitDeer here at 51 million increase, Cypher with 24 million, Hive with 25 million, Bitfarms with 44 million increase, Riot 132 million, IREN 131 million, and then Marathon 172 million, and Cleanspark increased by 253 million in revenue from where they were based on the numbers here. So Cleanspark increased their revenue year over year as far as the difference on it, the most out of all these guys here. And that's why down here you can see that per diluted share. So I'm basically just taking the, over here, I'm taking the difference, the 253 million additional revenue, dividing it by the dilution of number of shares. And that's how much basically the revenue increase per share that was diluted there. Because of the growth that they had in Bitcoin mining, everything else, the operations, uptime, all that stuff goes into play here. So Cleanspark came in at number one with $3.06 per share increase in revenue. Marathon at $2.20 increase. Riot at $1.37. IREN at $1.15. BitDeer at 96 cents. Hive at 52 cents increase. Bitfarms 39 cents. Cypher 38. And Core only 8 cents. Core, as we know, has been basically working to build out or retrofit their facilities for HPC AI for CoreWeave. And they've been moving things around, moving machines for Bitcoin mining to other facilities and things like that. And they're also kind of operating on older machines as well. They haven't really done anything to increase that hash rate or get newer machines in the past year, basically. They are talking about getting some machines installed possibly at the sometime in second half of the year, right? So they might improve for there. But they're also going to be generating revenue from HPCI, multi-billions of dollars over the next 12 years. So not really concerning there with them. This is just for Bitcoin mining, like I said before. So kind of interesting to see how things have played out. So a lot of people talk about where, yes, there's dilution. What are you getting for that dilution? Well, we actually have some kind of data that we can kind of look at to see what are we actually getting for the dilution. Is it a good dilution as far as growth and revenue increase and things like that? Yeah. A lot of these guys that have gotten to scale or getting to scale or going to be going past scale even, those guys are doing much better. Right, their revenues are increasing. Everything else is going the right way for them. Their HODL is increasing in some of these guys. They're getting into HPCI as well, some of them. So the dilution, in my opinion, is accretive as long as you're getting something for it. But when you're seeing some of these guys dilute and you're not really getting much of growth or anything like that, they're just kind of doing things to pay for operations, continue to HODL. and not much else, then I'm not too happy with it, right? If you're going to dilute for a good reason. Dilute that you're going to be growing here. And I'm okay with it when they're, because miners are in growth mode, basically. They're not at that point yet, like, I mean, think about Amazon, right? I'm not comparing them to Amazon, but just think about Amazon. When Amazon was growing, I mean, they were basically located in Seattle, Washington, wherever they were located when they started out the business, book business online. And then they started going in for warehousing and everything else. Basically, you can buy anything on Amazon. But during that growth phase, they were diluting shares in order to be able to do that growth. And then now, I mean, Amazon is a cash cow, right? I'm not saying that this is going to be the case with the miners, but when they're growing, I'm okay with it as long as they're growing for good reasons at it. So it's always good to take a look at this as well. I thought this was pretty cool. Let me know what you guys thought of that. If you guys want to see any other metrics for the dilution as well, we could possibly do that for the next quarter coming up as well. Let me know down in the comments as well. We'll look at that as well. One other thing I want to take a look at with you guys here really quick on the miners here is the performance over the last couple time frames, at least going back to the bottom of 2022 when the miners bottomed out in December here, and also like the growth over the last 12 months, things like that. Is this what I want to take a look at? No, it was actually, let me see, stock performance. Here it is. This is what I want to take a look at. We'll look at the other stuff later on. But I wanted to take a look at the stock performance on these guys here, and it has been, depending on the time frame, you might be doing really well or you might be doing very badly, depending on when you got into them. So first one we're going to get into is beginning of the third quarter here of 2024. How have the miners done compared to Bitcoin here? The only one that's up right now is Bitdeer is up 54% from that time frame. Bitcoin's up 39% from there. Riot is actually up only 10%. HUD is up 5%. And then Cleanspark is down 5.9%. IREN down almost 9%. Cypher down 10%. Marathon down 13%. Core down 23%. Hive down 40%. Bitfarms down 41%, right? So a lot of these guys have not done great in the last, I would say, 3 to 6 months roughly, right? If we look at price difference from 7.1, so this is the beginning of the second half of 2024. Well, at this point, we have only Bitcoin being up 34%. And then Bitdeer's up just slightly. It's just up a little bit. Itty bit. It's only up 1%. Everybody else here has done worse. You can see how that progresses throughout as well. Cleanspark down 54%, Bitfarms down 57%, right? Hive 45%, IREN 44%, Marathon 41%. Some of this stuff just doesn't make any sense. We were in, at that point, I think, from that time frame, we were in more of a HPCI hype cycle in not only the miners, but in other stocks as well, on the NASDAQ and things like that. Those guys did really well at that point. That's why we're seeing some of those other guys do a little bit better. When we look at from the beginning of the year of 2024, at that point you can see that Core is up 160%, Bitcoin's up only 88%. So depending when you got into it, you're going to be either in the green or in the red. Bitdeer was only up 20%, IREN up 3% roughly, HUD is down 3%, Cypher down 22%, Cleanspark down 25%, Marathon down 42%, Riot down 49%, Bitfarms down 59%, Hive down 59%. Both Canadian miners being beaten down the most here. And then when we look at the price percentage difference from 1/3/23, which is basically when the miners bottomed out, maybe a week or two after that, so not too far away. Everybody kind of bottomed out at different times, so I'm just kind of using an average there. But you can see if you got in at that point, IREN's up almost 500%, 481% from that time. Bitcoin's up 407%, and Cypher's up 400%. Cleanspark's up 302%, Marathon 285%, HUT 197%, Bitfarms 169%, Core 160%, Riot 132%, Hive at 15%, and Bitdeer's only up 2.1%. So it really does depend on when you get into these guys. If you were lucky enough to get in on the bottom of these things, you're doing very well. Even if you dollar cost average in, you're still probably doing okay. You might be in the green a little bit, but you're probably not bleeding red completely. And then here we have from the beginning of this year here, you can see everybody got beaten down here. Bitcoin's down 12.6%. Cleanspark is faring pretty good, down only 14.29%. Marathon's down 23%. Riot down 24%. Bitfarms down 28%. IREN's down 32%. Cypher down 33%. Core down 38%. Hive down 43%. HUT 8 down 44%. Bitdeer down 53%. So yeah, some of these guys that have gotten a good, I would say maybe pump from the HPCI business, those guys have gotten shellacked, beaten down quite a bit actually. So it's volatile. We know this, right? There's always not financial advice for any of this stuff, but it's always nice to take a look at different time frames on the miners, see how they do when and how, what was the catalyst behind it as well. and we always like to, at least I like to take a look at it and talk about it here. But that is all I got for you guys today. Tomorrow we'll look at other things as well. We got the mining comparison charts, enterprise metrics, market caps. We got other things to talk about as well, and hopefully we'll get Bitfarms to report their end of year numbers and fiscal or Q4 numbers, and then we can actually run into the quarterly results for the miners and break them down for each miner and see how they did, comparing them against each other, I guess. All right, that is it. As always, if you'd like access to my spreadsheets and charts and everything else, link for that is down in the descriptions through Patreon. $8 a month, you might be able to find a couple spots, $4 and $5, and that is my sales pitch for you guys. You guys in Patreon are my lifeline. You guys are supporting the channel tremendously, so I greatly appreciate you guys there. All right, let's get into Q&A side here, see what you guys have to say, if anything at all. Otherwise, we're going to call it a day. It's going to be an easy one, but as always, if you guys could preface the question with a question mark or a Q, I'd appreciate it. I'm going to scroll up and work my way down through any questions that you guys might have already. If not, we'll get through it as well. All right. All right. John says, tomorrow at 9 a.m., consumer sentiment report will be ugly, but it will cause a buy the dip moment for a rebound into the close. 70% cash position here. Epic downturn coming. Okay. Yeah, we'll see what that is. I'm guessing it's going to be pretty bad, too. I think consumer confidence or sentiment is going to be pretty bad because of all the stuff that's happening with tariffs. So I could see that for sure. Let's see. Question. Mar almost hit 52-week lows. Bought it for a swing, hoping things reverse soon. So more of a statement than a question there. Yeah, a lot of these guys are getting closer to 52-week lows. Let's see. You talk about cycles all the time. In the past, these miners were not shorted 30%. This has to be a giant factor along with dilution. Dilution, maybe? Or dilution. Not sure which one you're talking about. Yeah, they're definitely, I mean, Cleanspark's what, 27, 28% being shorted. Marathon's like 25, 26% being shorted there. They're definitely being shorted, and we are being manipulated by the big guys here more so than ever on this. So I agree with you there. The cycle does feel a lot different than it has in the past. We'll see how we go through the rest of the year here. Let's see here. Scary stuff with these stocks. I hope no one is invested in these mining stocks. Well, there's quite a few of us invested. I'm still invested in them, but for the most part, I'm still in the green currently. We'll see what the next week or two is going to foretell. Let's see. Yo, Trump declassified the Epstein files today. I have not seen anything, but I might have missed it. If you guys know something that I don't, let me know. All right. Let's see. B-side asks, how long have you been in this game? Well, I've been in it since 2017 when I was managing a small Bitcoin mining farm. So I've been in it at that point. I also invested in Hive at that point. So I started tracking them, and then I started tracking everything else. So, let's see, I got into it, when was it? When we had the pandemic. I got bored, had nothing better to do, so I started this YouTube channel basically for that, and I was also covering the miners, tracking the miners at that time, and it just kind of grew from there. So I've been in it for a while. Rode the 2021 cycle, got into the bear markets, bought more in the bear market, bought Cleanspark, Bitfarms, IREN, and recently just bought Mara as well. So I've been in it for quite a while. B-side says IREN is greater HPCI, Stargate. Yeah, Stargate is the investment there that we're going to see from, what is that, SoftBank there. All right. Undeserved Grace says, Charles Schwab upgraded IREN to overweight and said this price range is good entry. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys have been beaten down. Hey, Matt is in. Nice. Thanks, Matt, for coming in. Always appreciate it. You always have great spaces, too. Those are always fun to join you guys there. All right. The question of, instead of holding BTC over the last year, they could have diluted less and had same growth. Do you think any will use their HODL to buy back shares if BTC runs up? None of them have done it in the past, except for maybe Cleanspark, at least last cycle. They were selling into the bull run and then into the bear market as well while they were growing it, right? So they did that last time. I was thinking they're going to do the same thing this time, but maybe they're still waiting for that full bull run to come in for them to start selling. And I think they've stated that someplace that they will sell Bitcoin as Bitcoin goes up in value there. So we'll see. All right. What else we got? The 16 states OpenAI is currently considering are Arizona, California, Florida, Louisiana, Maryland, Nevada, New York, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Utah, Texas, Virginia, Washington, Wisconsin, and West Virginia. Okay, that's definitely a lot of states. They're also partnering with CoreWeave, right? They signed a contract with CoreWeave for a number of years there. It was a multi-billion-dollar deal, I believe, there as well. Yeah, interesting stuff happening in this space. Pitt says, I'm down so much, I don't even have money for Uncle Sam for the taxes. Oh, that's rough. All right. You think Jason Less will average down on Bitfarms? No. They can't go above the 20%, part of their agreement. They can't make an offer until next year, I think, if they wanted to. So I don't think he's going to do that. Let's see. Matt, thank you so much for becoming a member, buddy. Mara's the worst miner. Fred bought Bitcoin in 90. Well, he's not the only one that bought Bitcoin in 95. Riot bought it. Hut bought it. Hut 8 bought it. Who else bought it there? Sailor bought it at that price. So it's not the worst. It's a lot of people bought it at that price. But right now, Bitcoin being down, yeah, it does look kind of foolish. But if Bitcoin bounces back to 150,000, 200,000, they're going to look like geniuses at that time. But they should have been buying more at these prices, right? See, Matt says, BitDeer stacking sets big time and new 9.7 joules per terahash ASICs. Yes, talked about it in yesterday's or previous day's streaming as well. The only thing, Matt, with BitDeer there, they're 9.7 joules per terahash ASICs. Those are in low power mode. So what's the hash rate on those things? They don't provide a lot of details. Like what's the hash rate? What's the actual wattage there or the joules per terahash when you're actually running them normally instead of going into low power mode. But they do have a lot of growth here happening in the second half as well. Right. Beside, what is the total cost for miners? I often hear 80 to 90,000. Others say 30 to 40,000. What do you think the total cost is? I think 80 to 90 is more accurate. Depending on what you're looking into when you're looking into that, you can look at a couple of things. One, you can look at just the electricity cost, right? Which at that point, the miners are around like 30 to 40,000 for the most part. There's some that's probably going to be around 40, maybe even 50,000 at that point. When you include other costs such as professional fees, SG&A, employee payrolls, things like that. Now you're looking at closer to 40, 50, 60, maybe even 70,000 for some of these guys, right? But then when you include the SG&A, or not SG&A, stock-based compensation and depreciation, then you're starting to get up to like the 70, 80, 90, and 100,000 mark at that point. So it just depends on where you're looking and what you want to find. Do you want to just look at the cash-based costs, or do you want to include all the costs, right? And we'll look at that once Bitfarms reports their quarterly results. Then we'll take a look at it for the prior quarter. We can run some numbers on everybody. All right. I think miners tops are in and dilution is issue. Miners are always shorted. Do we think top is in for most of these and they won't see previous all-time high from last cycle? I mean, right now, yeah, the thinking I think is, at least the consensus might be that some of the miners that we were thinking might actually do pretty well with Bitcoin going up to 150,000, 200,000 would actually get back to their all-time highs. But now that we've seen what's been happening where they aren't being let, or they're not, some of the institutions or big players in the space are not letting them run, right? They're taking profits much faster than people would probably normally do. Whereas last time, I mean, we saw a parabolic rise in these things where they were doing, 20, 30% gains in a day. We're not really seeing that now. So it is a different cycle. Could they still do a 2, 3, 5x? I think it's still possible. It's just we need Bitcoin to go up to 200,000, 250,000 at that point. All right. Do you see any miners who might be diluting in the near future, or are we done? No, they're all going to be diluting for the most part, right? Unless they start selling the Bitcoin that they are generating there to fund their operations and whatever growth they want to have. Mara used up all of their convertible notes to buy Bitcoin, right? They still have some cash on hand, but more than likely they will be diluting as well as they grow a little bit more, fund operations, and continue to hodl, right? They don't sell anything. Riot, same thing. IREN, same thing. Cypher, same thing. Cypher's actually been selling a good portion of their Bitcoin to fund their operations and growth. And then what else? Hut 8, right? All those guys. The only one that might not dilute here, at least for the next, I would say, quarter, because we're almost done with this quarter. So I would say for the next maybe quarter or two, maybe even 3, would be Cleanspark. Cleanspark said they're fully funded to 50 exahash plus, which allows them to also, this is what I've heard, that they can actually fund operations, fund the hodl, and everything, and still get to like 50 exahash plus. So I'm thinking that might last them until maybe the end of Q3, and then partially into Q4, depending on how things progress. But that's the only one that might not be diluting here, at least in the next, I would say, what is it, maybe next 6 months, roughly. All right, next question here. Why is Cleanspark CEO fighting like ex-girlfriend on social media? That's not the CEO. It's you're talking about Matt Schultz there. He's the executive chairman, but he's not the CEO. Zach Bradford is the CEO of Cleanspark. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know on that one. Sometimes it is better just to be quiet, right? If you got nothing nice to say, don't say it. That's kind of the way I try to do things. As you guys probably know on X, you guys never hear me it wasn't belittling anybody, but being nasty to anybody or something like that. All right. When are you going to start buying miners here? I'm doing my taxes next week. At that point, I'll know how much I need to pay in and when I can actually start buying in. I'd love to be buying in right now, but I know I'm going to have to pay a boatload in taxes, probably over 10 to 15,000. And then I got property taxes coming up here in approximately 2 months, 2.5 months. That's going to be another 6,000 there. It's like, so I need to save up some cash to be able to do all that. Pitt, thank you for that. Yeah, hit the like button. Roger here. Basically, the Trump rally from November of last year was part Bart Simpson rally. Yeah, where we had a nice pump and a nice dump here recently. All thanks to Trump. Can Riot buy more shares after the upcoming dilution merger with Stronghold? They could possibly do that, yeah. As long as they stay below the 20%, I think they could. Okay, let's see. Hut's average very low on their 9,000 original BTC, right? Like 18,000. You mean their cost on those? They've been highlighting those for a long time. I mean, they could be, well, they've been selling quite a bit last year before the merger, or the year before, actually. It was 2023. Geez, I'm thinking, yeah. So it was back in 2023. So yeah, those probably might be at a lower cost. Okay. How do people not know that Cleanspark is not no longer diluting? They don't pay attention, as well as we might. I try to read everything that I can on these miners and all this stuff. So we might be the exception to the rule, right? Most investors don't go through all the stuff that's being put out there on X, on the press releases, on the SEC page, all that stuff. CG says the miners are doing a 10x from here easy. I would love to see that. That would make my day. I'll be happy as a pig in mud. Let's see, speaking of Bitfarms, do you still trust Ben even though 21 exahash completely failed? What is Bitfarms exahash today? They merged with, but I don't even think it's 21 exahash yet. They haven't merged with them yet. That is supposed to be happening here in the next 2 weeks or so. At least that's what the plan was. Do I trust Ben? I still trust Ben. Ben's only been in there now for, what has it been, 6, 7 months, 8 months at the helm. So he's trying to turn the ship in a different direction, okay, which I understand, but doing that also has some consequences. Those consequences were selling the Paraguay site, moving more into the United States side of things, which I think is a good move. But that was a decrease in, obviously, the hash rate growth there. The Stronghold acquisition, I think, is good as long as they can build out on it and do the things that they want to say, do the things that they say they want to do. I think that would be good for them. But it has definitely lowered their expectations as far as what their growth is going to be. I wasn't happy with that. I was looking for miners that are growing. So I'm not sure if you know, but I sold 2/3 of my shares there over the last 3-4 months. As news has been coming out, right, they're not reaching their targets. They're actually reducing those. I've been kind of selling down on that. But it's still, I'm giving Ben the benefit of the doubt here. He took over a mess. So we'll see how he does. Give me a little time, I think. You can't straighten everything out in 6-7 months. All right, so give him a little time. We'll see how he does. Marcus is saying this is looking more like a 2014 repeat. It does a little bit on the charts, at least, or the performance on Bitcoin here, right? If you look at it, where's it at? There it is. If you look at it here, if we get a March that's red, yeah, it's looking maybe like a 2020 repeat or a 2014 repeat. If that's the case, it wouldn't be good, right? If it's a 2020 repeat, that might not be too bad. We actually had some pretty good gains here happening at that point towards the end of the year. I'd be okay with that. But this over here doesn't look good for 2014. I gotta take a sip of my water. My throat's starting to get dry. All right, let's go back here. Questions. Okay. Drago says, rest in peace, miners. Chuck says, question. Mara, approved more dilution. At what level share price do you think they will dilute shares? That, I don't know. Ideally, you want to dilute shares at a higher price. But I think they still have some cash there, so I don't think that they're like forced to right now. It's not like they're in a dire position where they have to dilute right now. So they can hold off dilution until the price is doing better. But yeah, they got some dilution happening there. Excuse me. Gosh, got to tickle my throat. All right. Question here. Morrow and other miners with large HODL may be taking a large hit if Bitcoin doesn't go up soon. January 1st, 2024 price was, 95,000. So if Bitcoin ends this quarter in the next 2 weeks or so under that, then they're going to take a hit of basically whatever it's going to be, $10,000, $15,000 per Bitcoin that they HODL there. So they're going to definitely take a hit. Okay. Question, miners, especially hodlers, are going to be forced to dilute relentlessly now that BTC has fallen. It just doesn't end. No miner even break even from all the dilution they've done last few years. I would agree with you there, right? There's times when they do make a lot of money, and depending if they're selling the Bitcoin that they make at that point, then they can turn that into actual dollars, right? But if they're just holding on to it through a HODL, then yeah, it's just you're not really making anything. It's just paper money at that point. So yeah, I would agree there. Miners are hard to trust. Some are not, I would say. Just all depends. But there's also a lot of changes that we've seen here this year with all this HPCI talk. Right? In the past, miners were Bitcoin miners, and that's basically it. They had hosting and managed services and things like that, but it was all around Bitcoin mining. Now they're talking about doing, $2 billion data centers for HPCI. So it's changing. They're adapting, I guess, is the best way to probably put it. Okay, let's see. Roger says, I remember around December last year, you said you would start worrying around March if we don't get any pump soon. Are you still bullish? I'm hesitant right now. I would say cautiously optimistic. As long as Bitcoin, this is just my thoughts, as long as Bitcoin stays above 65,000 and we bounce from there, I think we're going to be okay. If we fall below that, I'm going to start getting really worried at that point. I think at that point we're going into a bear market. Well, we shall see. See. Barra says, I never understand why people that are bearish on miners spend their time in BTC mining streams and chats. Well, I think they want to see what the sentiment is, maybe. Maybe they're the ones also shorting the miners. So there's always two sides to it. Okay. I think read the average cost now is 20,000 per coin, but Hut might have the cheapest BTC on books. As far as when it was mined, it would be either Hut or Mara, because Mara's been hodling for a long time as well. Cleanspark started hodling more so like last year, 2024. I mean, they really went into hodl there and in 2023 as well a little bit. But prior to that, they were selling it. So as far as like when did they accumulate it price-wise, yeah, I think Mara and maybe Hut 8 might have the best numbers there, even maybe Riot as well in there. But 20,000 per coin for Hut to mine, that doesn't add up for me. It seems much higher than that. At least that's where I'm at least right now. Let's see. Narcissus Seb is a doge of miners. Oh gosh. You guys are going to start vandalizing my cars then. I don't want that. Okay, let's see. CJ says, yeah, too much FUD in here tonight. There's always FUD. Some maybe rightfully so, right? Okay. All right, Christian has a question here. Your dilution calculation needs to be normalized for the fact that miners have different market caps. You need to also look at the value of the at the market programs and divide by shares. It's more nuanced. Okay, thank you for that. I'll take that into consideration. So you're talking about market cap though? I mean, Maybe should we? So are you saying we should maybe look at the market cap where it was, like the beginning or the end of 2023 and where it is now? That might be a way to do that, right? Okay. All right. Sour says, stay out of Bitfarms. Share price will fall sub $1 and they will reverse split. Mark my words, sideways summer incoming. Okay. Well, we shall see. All right. Ron's got a question here. Hey, Seb, if you were starting off in crypto, which would you buy? Ethereum, BTC, or XRP? And why would you buy now or wait? I would dollar cost average in. I don't know where the bottom's going to be on these things, but if I was going to buy, I would buy BTC. I own Ethereum as well a little bit, but I definitely own a lot more BTC. I think BTC is the gold standard, basically, of the space. XRP, never been really a fan of big fan of XRP. I mean, their original goal was to go after the SWIFT system, right? It's like, okay, but the banks can just create their own things. I also don't like that it's centralized, right? It's basically a corporation run. I'm not a big fan of that either because you can have banks do that internally as well, where they create something similar to XRP. So there's nothing really proprietary there that I can think of. So I think it's more marketing than anything with XRP. But it has done pretty good here recently. But it's been also a poor performer over the last couple of years because of the suits and everything else. All right. Question. Basically, each share is worth something different due to market cap and share count differences, so the calculation isn't fair comparison. Depending, yeah, I mean, I get your point. I can see that, right? So, I mean, there's many different ways you can do a comparison. This is just an easy way that I did a comparison, basically, right? You take what the revenue was for one year, what the revenue was for the other year. What did you get for the dilution? Did you get growth from it also, right? Look at those things. And then we could also take a look at the market cap. Where was the market cap at the end of 2023 for their fiscal year end? Where is the market cap now, right? Did that improve at all? Did you at least get that? We could also look and take that into account also. All right. Do you think WGMI can go to 30 here? It's at, what is it now, $13, $14, something like that right now? That would basically be a 2x from here. I think it can. If Bitcoin goes to at least 200,000, I think it could possibly do that. Benny says, Seb, we are not going under 72,000. You can mark my words. If Bitcoin goes below 72, then all charts are wrong. Okay. That would be good. All right, but I'm just saying that at 65,000, I would still be okay. And below that, I'd start to worry. All right. Roger says, question, looks like a lot of good news regarding Bitcoin. Do you know why Bitcoin isn't pumping of tariff news, which increases inflation, which benefits digital gold? Well, people get frightened at that point, I think. Right, when you have inflation, that's going to cost, well, it's going to possibly rise to, have a rise in an increase in inflation, which then people are going to be paying more for things, so then they're less hesitant to invest in, what's the word there? Risk assets. So that's the concern there, I think. Let's see. Gil says, I think it was in their report 20K on what they hodl, not what, okay, on their cost. Okay, 20,000, okay, I could see that. They definitely had a huge hodl position before. We've had a bull run here, and they've been kind of holding on to it right now. They've been selling a little bit, so I could see that being 20,000, the average. Par says, FUD the bottom, FOMO the top, you know the plays. Let's see. Actually, you want to FOMO with the bottom, buy as much as you can in the bottom, and FUD the top. Let's see here. All right, let's see. B-Side says, I created this account in 2006 before Satoshi's white paper. Click on my username. I also find that Mike Alfred is getting a lot of flack lately. I find him really brilliant and tax heavy. Yeah, I mean, anybody that's bullish on Bitcoin right now and the miners is getting a lot of flack. So, yeah, and I also like Mike a lot. He's got a lot of, I wish I was as well-spoken as he is. I admire the fact that he's that well-spoken. And he's got a lot of knowledge as well. He's been in this space for a long time. So, yeah, I always enjoy joining Mike's spaces. Definitely, I mean, you may agree with him on some of the things and you may disagree with him on some of the things, which is fine. And you may find his humor, excuse me, maybe inappropriate sometimes, right, where he's posting things about giving stuff away. But it is what it is. He's just having fun. All right. All right. This is not a Bitcoin problem or a minor problem. General market corrections caused by Trump's mouth. Economic data, all good. Yeah, I would also agree there. Sarmelon says, massive adoption, sailor buying billions in BTC, records breaking ETFs inflows, BTC equals BTC price collapse. Sure makes a ton of sense. The algorithm is a bunch of BS. Yeah, like I've said before, many times, I think the miners are being manipulated. I think the Bitcoin is being manipulated. We got a lot more big time players in here, and that's a result of that. So we just got to kind of ride it through, and then they will pump it on the other side. Right, let's see. Besides asking, what is your favorite song if you had to sing at a karaoke? Oh my gosh. I have a lot of favorite songs. I kind of go between hard rock, maybe even a little heavy metal, like Metallica. I think that's the heaviest I go as far as heavy metal is concerned, Metallica, but I kind of consider them like hard rock. And then we could go into like even country. I also like the big band from the 50s and 60s, like Frank Sinatra, all that stuff. There's a lot of things that I like. I like alternative as well. I kind of go through that phase where I just listen to different genres, basically, depending on the mood I'm in. If I'm just kind of working on numbers, I'll listen to like Frank Sinatra, big band, things like that. If I'm doing stuff outside the yard, I'm going to want to get energized. I'm going to listen to some hard rock, maybe a little heavy metal. Things like that. But there's a lot of songs. I don't know if I have a favorite song, but yeah, just a lot of, I love music. Okay. Do you think this correction is over soon, or will this be a multi-month ordeal and we're waiting for the end of year for the real blow off top? Like I said, as long as we stay above 65,000, I think this correction can go even longer. And the reason I say this is if you look at the correction that we had here, if you look at the correction that we had here back in, let's go back to Bitcoin here, last year, right? When we topped out on Bitcoin at 72,000, 73,000, whatever it was over here, right? In March. Look at this sideways action that we had here and correction that lasted roughly, how long did that last? From the top here, it lasted roughly till we started going back up approximately, what is that, 213 days, right? That's a nice long time there. And we went down about 38%, I think, from there to the bottom. What was it? 28 it's showing? Oh, the bottom was here. 33%, right? Bottom was over here, 33%. And then we finally started to go back up. And this was to the bottom. It was 145 days. So from there, it took us another, from the bottom, roughly going up to here, it took us another 66 days, basically 2 months. So if this was our bottom here that we had here, on Bitcoin, going over here, we're on the daily chart, right? If this was our bottom basically over here on, well, when was this? This was March 11th, Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. So this week. So we kind of bottomed out here. If that's our bottom, we could have another 2 months where we go sideways until we start going up. The reason I say that is because we've reached a top here and another top here, but more or less, let's just say this, call it from here. We've only been in this for 85 days. So we might have some more time before things really straighten out. And the big thing is, I think it's going to be on Trump to see if he can cool it with the tariffs. I think right now they're doing all this stuff, they're talking about all this stuff, and I think they're just trying to bring the economy down a little bit, get Powell to lower the interest rates so then they can refinance the national debt, bring that under control as well. And then once they do that, then it's, like the rocket, we're going higher. But in the short term, it's going to be painful. We might be going sideways on this stuff. And then I still expect for the later on this year that things would do better. But we will see. All right, David's got a question here. Are other miners that have been added to the S&P index beside Cleanspark? Mara is one of them that I know of for sure. Who else? Oh, gosh. Was it TerraWolf also that got included in there for some reason? I would have to look on that one. I'm not sure. Okay. Sorry, guys. Trying to read all the questions here. Roger said, question, I met Satoshi back in 1993. He was a cool dude. Yeah, I heard that. I think that was on a panel with Michael Saylor that he mentioned that. It's like, okay. And the look that Michael Saylor gave him at that point was like, okay, yeah. I don't know where he's coming up with that. Question, could you share what current hash rate is and what price miners may start not being profitable? Okay, what the current hash rate is? Well, the current hash rate is, let me see if we can pull that up here. The hash rate is actually not too bad. Actually, it's going kind of flat here on it. Let's see, this is it? No, that's the hours until next halving. There it is, hash rate. So this should be the most recent. This is on the 7-day. Hash rate has come up here on the 7 days. It is up to 832 exahash. The 30-day average is more or less been kind of going down a little bit, kind of flattening out a little bit here. So now it's 799 exahash. So that actually bodes well, as long as hash rate doesn't go crazy here, and it doesn't look like it's going to do that this year. And then as far as where the miners are not profitable, I think a lot of the miners right now, at least like the cost of energy, for like Cleanspark, IREN, they're right around like 30,000, 40,000, somewhere around there. Some of the other ones get up a little bit closer to like 40, 50,000. So as long as we stay above, with Bitcoin price above 65,000, I think a majority of these guys are still gonna be profitable for electricity. But then when you include everything else on top of it, that's when things get a little bit more interesting at that point. But right now, it's not like they're having to sell their Bitcoin to fund their operations. They have cash from, ATMs from the past, and also convertible notes, right? So they have cash from that they can rely on, and also continue to hodl what they've been doing. So I'm not really too concerned about it right now, and them having to like go bankrupt or anything like that, or not be profitable. They can withstand it, and they can continue to hodl, and Bitcoin goes up higher after that. They can still do very well. Okay, Robert says Bitcoin is okie, miners are not, unfortunately. Yeah, depending when you got into Bitcoin, depending when you got into miners, that's all very true. All right, Christian says, could you maybe do a table that shows month Bitcoin price, share count with each miner? The main measure is showing how miners aren't tracking Bitcoin price. That's going to be a little tough, Christian, there. One, we don't have the latest data on the shares outstanding. We only get that like quarterly, unless they do something, M&A or something like that. So that's not going to be easy to do that. The Bitcoin price, that's easy. We can pull that from a table. It's not a big deal. The share price of these guys as well. But the share count is going to be obviously based on quarterly results for them. Yeah, so I could possibly look at that. Let me think about that. Okay. Let's see. Funny how gold is killing it and gold miners are lagging. BTC and BTC miners are the same, except more extreme. Yeah, if you look at it that way, possibly. Okay. Question, why should miners get a high PE if future dilution and halvings are a given? Growth, I think. Growth. Because they continue to grow, especially some of the bigger guys, right? If they continue to grow, take market share from other ones, then in their hodl position, as long as Bitcoin goes up in value, they continue to hodl. That goes up in value as well. Let's see here. Sound of Silence by Disturbed. That is a good song. Love that song. Gives me chicken skin all the time. But yeah, that is a great song there. Let's see. Bob C says, so many miners seeking to diversify into HPC AI, hodl expectations, etc. Could it be that they no longer believe BTC mining can be profitable? I don't think that they see it as no longer being profitable. I think they see it as an alternative or an addition to what they're doing there, and it's more steady revenue. My question with BTC, well, so there's a couple ways you could do HPC AI. One, you do kind of deal like a Core did with CoreWeave, right? You build out the infrastructure. CoreWeave puts in all the billions of dollars that they need to put in the servers, the HPC, the graphics, GPUs, all that stuff, right, for AI. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to build out yourself, right? Try to find customers at that point, but at that point, you're also looking at what is the ROI time frame on this. And I've said this before, Dan Roberts from IREN has mentioned this before as well. When they first were getting into it with HPC AI stuff, the H100s were looking to be about a 24-month return on investment. Later on, within probably, I would say 6 months, they said, yeah, it's looking more like it's going to be right around maybe 30 months. So right now it's like that. Is it 30 months now? Since it's been about 6 months, is it now like maybe 32 months or 36 months, whatever it might be? So that's the question I have there. What is the ROI on those? Historically, with miners, depending when you get them, and if you get them in the right time, or at least close to the right time, You can get an ROI on the miners, the ASICs there, in about 12 to, I would say at the most, 18 months. Depending when you get into it. If you get in a good time, right? If you get into like the bear market and you overpaid for the miners, well, then you might be out of luck. But a lot of the big guys here are getting actually good deals where they're paying $14, $15 per terahash, which is really good. So I don't see an issue there on that part of things. So there's, like I said, there's many different ways you can look at it, depending on what you're really concentrating on. Let's see, there are just too many miners, period. It has definitely gotten more diluted as far as where you can invest your money into, right? So then that's why we're trying to figure out which miners are doing the best, which ones are growing the best, things like that. See, Trump could have done this in a more civilized way, but he decided to go full aggressive, threatening annexing Greenland, Canada, and tariffs. I agree with you there. There's definitely better ways to do that, but I think he wanted the shock and all basically to lower the markets down, lower CPI data, maybe even going forward, so that he can get the lower interest rates. I think that's the main goal, I think, there for it. And he's going to do whatever he can to get it to that. Okay. Fundamentally, can you explain why Bitcoin miners should outperform BTC? They should outperform BTC in certain periods of time, in the bull runs, right? And the reason for that is because they are able to mine it at a much lower cost and become way... the profit margins should be increasing as Bitcoin price goes up in value for them. So that's the main reason there. So that's why we should at least get like, historically we got like a 2x on average of what Bitcoin did. So Bitcoin went up 100%. These guys historically did at least a 200%. Some of them have done better as well, but that's kind of the reason why. All right, Ron says, a question here, I'm torn between a BTC spot ETF and holding actual Bitcoin. Given the tax advantages of an ETF, is there any strong reason to avoid it? Follow up to my crypto choice question. Okay, between a BTC and a spot ETF, yeah, I mean, if you can get a spot ETF in like your retirement account or something like that, that would be probably the way to do it because it does track Bitcoin that way. But if you want to have Bitcoin where you can take it with you wherever you go without any question, you can use it wherever you want, then you want to have regular spot BTC, right? But yeah, that's the only reason I can think of it, is just convenience. If I want to buy something in Bitcoin, I want to use my wallet for that, and I can do that anywhere in the world. I don't have to worry about having to transfer the money. I don't have to worry about the government saying, why are you transferring over $10,000? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? You know, it's just a little bit more freedom in it, but I don't know if that freedom is going to go away in time as we get more and more adoption. I hope it doesn't, because there should be a way for people to legally purchase things that are legal, right? Without having the fear of having Uncle Sam going, why are you doing this? What's up with you? Right? So that's my thoughts on it. And the question here, the longer it takes for the miners to rally is the closer than halving is. Does that mean extended cycle can hurt? Well, I don't know if an extended cycle can hurt, but if you're talking about like the longer it takes the miners to, maybe they don't rally, like maybe Bitcoin doesn't even really rally hard, right? What if Bitcoin just goes up to 150,000 this year? And then it continues on going to next year where it goes up to 200,000 next year, right? Just these little steps going up in the north direction with some pullbacks on it. And I don't know if that's going to be bad for the miners. I think that would be actually kind of good as long as the network hash rate doesn't go crazy, which it shouldn't at that point. If Bitcoin's going up more slowly, right, and steadily, instead of these huge ups and downs, that might bode well for the miners. It might be actually profitable for a much longer period of time instead of being only profitable for 6 to 12 months when we're in this huge bull run. All right, Ron, you're very welcome there. All right, Christian, here's another question. I think the leverage came from there being no ways for investors to speculate on BTC in the stock market before. It's gone now because of ETFs and constant dilution. You might be right there. I'm not saying that that isn't maybe the case here. We don't know, right? You got the ETFs now that you can get Bitcoin exposure to, but that's not really a leverage play there. That just follows Bitcoin. A lot of people still want to have that leverage or that proxy on Bitcoin where it does outperform. And you can see that on, which chart was it? It was one of the charts here that we looked at. It was the stock performance. Here it is. So depending when you got into it, so from the bottom, if we look at the bottom of where the miners are, you can see that IREN still outperformed Bitcoin here a little bit. right? Up 481%. Bitcoin's up 407% from the bottom in basically December of 2022. Some have gone pretty close, 400%. Cleanspark's up right now, 302%. But if we look at it where Cleanspark went up to like $24, it had way outperformed Bitcoin at that point. Because right now we're looking at it where it is at today's price at, what is it at, $13, whatever. No, it's like at $7, $8, whatever it's at. So multiply that times another, basically 3. And at that point they were at basically 900%, while Bitcoin's only now, well, Bitcoin at being at 100,000 would have been what, some 20%, maybe it would have been 500% or something like that. So the miners would have done really good at that point as well, depending when you sold it, when you got into it. They have outperformed Bitcoin here as well. So they have to take that into consideration as well. I mean, there's just so many what ifs. What if we did this? What if we did that? Right? But there are times when, if you look at just from the bottom and to the tops of these guys, miners have outperformed, but it's just depending when you got actually into them and when you sold them. Right? I hope that kind of makes sense. It should make sense. Okay. All right. On charts, if miners go lower, can we be a big bloodbath, but all stocks are very low too? There's always a possibility of that, right? I'm not going to rule that out. Benny says, Seb, we will run. I don't know when, but we will run hard from here to 140, 180,000, and then we may come down like you are saying and pull back and slowly go up. All right. So I'm not the only one thinking the same thing. That's good to know. All right. Let's see. If Bitcoin Act is passed, they will buy 200,000 coins per year for 5 years. That is only 16 billion per year, less than Sailor spends. Yeah, if they wanted to get to a million coins, right? But depending on what the price of it is at that point, right? If you got other countries buying it as well, you're going to be paying a heck of a lot more. And maybe Sailor at that point might not be able to afford it, or at least buy that much if the price has gone up so much. All right, let's see. We'll do the last question here from Christian here. Question: buyers and sellers buyers and sellers make the leverage, not the stock fundamentals. Buyers are gone, but the sellers are companies diluting, hence the poor performance this cycle. Yeah, but how do you explain the institutions buying? I mean, the institutions have been buying into these guys still while they're going down. Do they know something that we don't know? I don't know. I mean, we shall see, Christian. I have absolutely no idea where things are going to go. I can only speculate, theorize where things are going to go based on just what I'm seeing here. But no one knows. We'll see where things end up at in the next 6 to 9 months on that. All right. Okay, I think we've gone through all the questions here. So, yeah, we'll call it a day. Tomorrow, we'll go through some other metrics and things like that, see what else we have to cover on them. We got some things we can take a look at. There's always things we can take a look at. I got so much data, it's not even funny here. And Tobo is asking a question, when Cybertruck? I like the outside of the Cybertruck, don't get me wrong, but I do not like the interior. The interior for me is just way too plain. I like the Rivian interior. I like, I've had what else did I have? That was kind of nice interior. I got a Chevy Colorado right now. I kind of like the interior there. It's got buttons, it's got things I can press instead of everything on one screen. I don't like having everything on one screen. I just like having ease of access. I don't want to go from one menu to another menu. That's just distracting for me. I want quick, easy access. So, yeah, I just don't like the Cybertruck on the inside. That's a deal breaker because when you're driving it, you're sitting on the inside. You're not sitting on the outside. But the outside looks cool. Let's see. Eric says BTC is going up, up, up. Keep talking. Is it going up? Yeah, it's up 1%. 1,000. Yeah. So that's a good sign there. Let's see. All right. That's it. We'll call it a day. We'll see where things end up. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Everything else. Tomorrow's at least Friday. Tomorrow's going to be a really nice day, too, at least where I live in Illinois. We're supposed to be in the 70s. I don't know where you guys live. But I'm going to enjoy that tomorrow, doing a little yard work when I get home from work. Definitely enjoy doing that. So hopefully you guys go outside, do something as well if it's nice by you guys. But yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Love you all. Thank you so much for coming in as always. Thank you for all the questions. Greatly appreciate you guys as always. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night. All right. Until then,